What are some things, and the audience can tune in on this as well. What are some things that you think are stopping people from having these conversations about cost?
To be honest with you, I think most people probably not talking about the cost of having a kid because we keep a lot of our finances to ourselves because we look at it as a conversation that shouldn't be said publicly. Like money is right there with it. I don't think a lot of people really know how much their partners make. Like
Mm,
boyfriend, girlfriends probably not having conversations about how much they making, and they probably not budgeting or anything like that.
mm.
And even if they are budgeting, like did they consider putting the child in their budget if they're deciding to have a child, or if a child is on the way? Like I just don't think a lot of people aren't thinking about it
Mm.
or having these conversations because it's not typically normal to talk about money.
Well, and that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up because earlier this week I was on a date and I asked, "Hey, how much do you make?" It was one of the first conversations that I had, right? Because I need to understand if you say you're intentional about relationships, and so a lot of people that is very like, oh my goodness, are you? I'm like, and I'm transparent about it, right? Because I'm like, if we're deciding to be intentional and that we want this to go somewhere, I need to understand what I'm financially getting into because 9 times out of 10 I might have to foot the bill for a lot of things. Traditionally they typically want a man who can provide, which is fine, but I also have to know, and usually typically the income will give me a baseline on what the debt ratio is, because one thing people will talk about how much they make more than they'll talk about how much they owe, because that's a whole nother conversation. That's when things really go scorched earth. So did you have anything else for the cost?
No, that's it for now.
So if we're looking at strategies for financial planning, I look at this in two ways, right? Pre-child and post-child. So when we talk about financial planning, I'm looking at location matters, right? So when you decide that you're going to have a child, living on a coast, East Coast, West Coast, and living in cities are more expensive. So when you're leaving college, make those understand the conversation, say, hey, with yourself, like, hey, where do I actually want to live? Where is most cost effective for me right now in this moment if I want to have a family? What is the housing like in those markets, in those areas? Because Texas might look good right now, but by the time that you decide to have a child, everybody from California is going to Texas and going to the south, right?